welcome to another Damn Anime podcast. My name is Nick, and I will be your host. Here with me tonight is my good buddy Joe. Joe, how you doing?
Doing all right. Yeah, it's been a long time coming, but hey, I'm surprised we're getting this chance.
We are here to talk about Nier for hopefully not the last time, but the last time for a while, it would seem. Um, yeah, whenever they went on break because of scheduling issues and COVID, I was I was kind of sure that we were not going to get to finish this up because I kind of thought there wasn't going to be any more, but I just kind of let it go. And lo and behold, the show came back at the end of July, and here we are at the end of August, finally with enough time in the schedule to cap it off and to knock out these last couple episodes, 4 episodes of the show. Basically, a third of the season, really. Um, yeah. So anyway, yeah, I'm excited. We'll talk about a lot of different parts of it. We'll give our perspective on kind of each episode and sort of the whole of it, and maybe what we're kind of thinking of might happen next. But to begin, we should probably start with a bit of a recap. So I was kind of looking over some stuff, but did you have anything you wanted to say about that episode 8, the last episode that aired before the break?
Yeah, so episode 8 was the that swimsuit episode. So ended up having Jackass fishing, and they had some slight fan service there. Uh, they're going through the remains of the city that's half submerged underwater, and it was that's when they found the one flower. Shoot, I can't remember the name of it now. The one that's a lily but not a lily. Uh,
Yeah, it's not a real lily in
uh,
real life, but it is some sort of the moon something lily. Um, Dang it,
yeah, so that
can't think of
that
it.
was and it pretty much ends with uh 9S going ahead and uh finding someone's secret little art gallery of like pure stalker moment of just having 9S and 2B on a bunch of canvases all around.
Right.
And they had a really cool shot of him going down the hallway, making it seem ominous, and it was pretty well directed. At the time, my guess was um, it was the other android they were looking for, the one that went rogue. Um, but you didn't know at the time. So then it just, it cuts off. You're assuming something happened, some sort of jump scare kind of thing. You're like, all you know is fades to black. Uh, and so that's kind of abruptly where it picks up with episode 9. It starts out with 9S um, trying to open some doors.
Yeah, exactly. We don't really see exactly how he is captured, but we do see that he is trapped in cyberspace, trying to open some doors. And so, uh, 2B searches for him and um, and finds coordinates that lead to an underground installation. She requests support from the bunker, but the motif kind of continues that the bunker is not really providing support anymore to anything that they don't already want to. Um, so she uh, continues on anyway and manages to find a way into the machine real the machine replica of a human city, um, and finds
Yeah,
Adam.
but during which you're kind of seeing 9S get, they had shown him pretty much being tortured in his mindscape because he's being hacked, and it turns out that it's Adam who had actually captured him. So he's literally messing with his mind and kind of trying to corrupt him. It seems.
Yeah, and that brings us right to it because Tubi finds Adam, who has 9S prisoner, um, and this is kind of where we sort of get I guess the big reveal that the machines have been evolving ever since it came to Earth, and they've been fascinated with humanity. Um, and he also says that humanity has been extinct already, a long time ago. Um, and so that's kind of like, whoa. So what is really going on here then? So this does happen in the game, but it happens, I think, later and differently. Trying to
See,
remember exactly how.
I couldn't remember if this is where he says humanity's been extinct. I know this is where he says the alien life forms that came down, they're the progenitors of the machine life forms. They have been wiped out since,
No,
and that's
yeah,
why he pulls up the husks of the alien life forms and be like, yeah, this is what they look like, and they're dead. Um, so that's he confronts 2B, and it's actually a really neat uh set piece, I guess, because it's this, like you mentioned, it's a city completely controlled by Adam. It's like all formed by these cubes that can kind of appear and mold to his whim.
right.
So that's actually, it's pretty neat.
Yeah, yeah. It's a little bit like this fight is a little bit like Neo and Mr. Smith's first fight in the Matrix, where I think Neo has to run away. It's like, okay, it's a kind of a close call, but it's so it's kind of cool for that. But I thought they did a good job there. Um, but yeah, 2B buys enough time for her and 9S's pods to hack Adam and to kind of hold back his powers. And then
During the fight, though, he decides to separate himself from the network, so he doesn't have a copy. He's just like, he eventually he's making himself vulnerable to be
vulnerable.
mortal. Uh, and it was
Yeah,
just like,
I didn't understand that move. Was it just because he's like obsessed with humanity and being human, or
y- yeah, it is. It's I that's what I gather from it, is because uh he admires, the idea of humanity so much, and he's just like, well, there's no stakes in it. Essentially, it's the ultimate bad guy hubris move.
right?
It's just like, well, let me handicap myself now for you, and surely this is going to be perfect for me. Nothing's going to go wrong because I am all powerful.
Right.
uh
Exactly. So like right as the fight is finishing, uh I think 2B makes goes for a killing blow on Adam, but that is right when Eve shows up, and we've kind of been seeing Eve that he went off to look for Adam, but he shows up right at that moment, and Eve ends up taking the killing blow that was meant for Adam, and 2B and 9S withdraw, and but and Adam is left there, kind of holding Eve's dead body. I think that in the game, so in the game, there's more than one ending, obviously. But I think that in the game, the ending that I do remember clearly, it was the opposite, where Adam is the one that dies, and Eve is the one that kind of seeks revenge, as we're going to see a little later. Yeah. So that's
all
kind of
right.
the,
Yeah, and it ends with uh Eve's body like shattering into dust, essentially.
right.
It kind of, just, bursts, and yeah, that's essentially the end of episode 9. Before you get the one of many endings, like you were just talking about.
Yeah. I'll just
This was one of the weaker ones thus far, though, for sure.
yeah, I guess they wanted to save some of the better ones for the last couple episodes. But yeah, I just have the notes pulled up here. So 2B and 9S come up with T-shirt ideas, but it takes so much of their time that they abandon their mission, leaving Earth at the mercy of the machines. Uh, I can relate to that, but
I
yeah,
just he's like, I have a shirt for you, and it says nines on it because he's been trying to get her to say it the entire series.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it's silly. I mean, so I'm actually legit curious. Like, I'm assuming that has to be in game, right? But as one of the many endings, but it's just,
It might be there. I
That's
think there's like 40. I don't. I mean, I think there's 40 different endings. Most of
I
them
thought there
are.
was only 26.
Oh yeah, because of the letters. Yeah, I forgot. I
Yeah,
could
the
have
alphabet. It goes through the alphabet, right?
sworn. Yeah, that's probably right. So there's that many. Whatever the right number is, just insert that there. But yes, but a lot of them are just kind of jokey, like sort of whatever endings. There's only A, B, C, D, and E are technically canonical, depending on where you stop. And only one of those is actually going to be canonical, I think. But yeah, so that does it for episode 9. So you can kind of feel the show really sort of starting to ramp up, and these last 10, 11, and 12 is when kind of things come together and a lot of the action happens. Um,
Yeah, when so one of the thoughts I came across when it came into this episode was how because 9S was captured and being interrogated, I was expecting a virus or some sort of corruption to come into play.
right.
So that was kind of like predicting that as like a foreshadowing event. Um, and that was, I mean, they do one of the tropes that I always have a hard time with is when you have a scenario like this in lots of different series where like, oh, I have a clone of your friend or your beloved person, and like, oh, you cannot hurt this fake thing of them just because it looks like them. I'm like, that always irritates me because she hesitates to destroy a copy of 9S that Adam summons. I was just like, wait a minute, you should totally be able to just you've nuked everything else. You should just be able to cut through this. Who cares if it looks like 9S? You know it's not him. Um, but
Yeah.
it's implying that but Adam's obsessed with the emotions that these androids feel because he also says that to 9S on how when he's interrogating about all the emotions that they're supposed to feel that they're not allowed to feel, essentially. So
Right. Yeah.
but yeah, that was like that's the gist I pretty much took away from this one. But yeah, so since Adam severed the connection and now he's alone, that was like all right, that was unexpected and how they quickly offed one of the main antagonists. I felt.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they got to wrap it up, I guess, within the season. So, um, yeah. And so we're kind of going on. Um, we kind of enter into episode 10. Um, after after the killing of Eve, 9S's body is sent back to the bunker for repairs, while the commander orders 2B to eliminate Adam. 2B heads to Adam's last known location, which is a factory occupied by machines that have formed a peaceful religious cult. That was the other thing, is that whenever at the end of that episode 9, I don't know if you already said this, but the Pope or whatever, or the Cardinal of the machines comes and visits Adam, and they seem to have some sort of deal that they make in some sort of way.
No, that's so what it is. Is it's actually the start of episode 10.
Oh, is that there's
Is
okay?
so it's yeah. So what happens is uh, you're seeing essentially Adam grieving, and he's sitting at the table that you've seen many times. This long, formal dining table, because usually Eve always sits on one end, Adam sits at the other. Um, Adam always reading, and then Eve always saying he wants to play.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden you see all these the machine life forms, little robots, all lined up, and at the where Eve sits, you see the Pope looking bot saying Eve, and of course Adam gets angry, walks across the table, kicks his head off. Um,
yeah,
Apparently they're that easy to kill, and all their heads
crazy.
are just remote detachable. But yeah, he kills Robot Pope,
Yeah,
and then that comes into play a little bit later.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, um, yeah, so and it's hard to remember everything that happened on this. So 2B kind of goes deeper into the factory, um, and
Yeah,
and it
a
turns
suicide mission, which makes total sense. I mean, it was really out of character, I guess. Like they're like, yeah, we just need you to go and and just dominate. Like, but it turns out the intel she was given was incorrect. It's like, yeah, we need you to kill Adam. Adam's not there, but there are a bunch of robots, and like I said, they're all neutral. They're all yellow eyes, and they're all trying to promote, their religion. So everything seems okay. And they're like, yeah, come with us to this obvious trap that you're about to have, but it's a plot point. So
Yeah,
please come this way. And she completely does.
yeah, and the religious cult stuff is one of the things I actually missed doing in the game. I did see someone talk about it later, but I was that's one of the reasons I want to replay it. Is because I want to go back and do that whole side story is kind of I think it's one of the bigger side stories. At least it's one of the ones that's um, often shown and quoted or whatever. So anyway, that's just a bit about me. But yeah, so 2B goes in there and I mean she encounters a machine being controlled by 9S, um, and 9S shuts down the power supply, and that is what allows 2B to defeat a large machine in her way. While the
We completely overlooked the fact that how everything overturned though.
okay,
So the yeah, so what happened was so she makes it to the top, sees the Pope, and everyone's being like, all the robots like praising, being like supposed to be like, you can be like God or serve God or something like that. And the robots just like it's the corpse of the robot that just got his head kicked off by Adam. And this is where I was thinking, even though Adam was severed from the network, like Adam's will or like grieving personality seems to be connected to these machines, because that's why the one robot sat where Eve was in a faux attempt to replace Eve, and that's why the robot got angry. But at the same time, when these robots are doing like they all have like flaming torches, and they're all kind of like praising this robot for dying and being closer to Adam.
yeah,
Uh, or Adam, I'm sorry, be closer to Eve. So they're sitting there trying to attain Eve like status. And that's so, but at that point, you see a cutout from it cuts to Adam just standing at the end of the table, like just exactly where he kicked the one robot, and then his shirt bursts into flames, just combusts, and that's kind of where the robots start like doing more dancing and like with the flames, and uh, then that's where they all like switch. They all go from neutral to red, and so
right.
then she has to fight her way out, and that's kind of so during this long extended fight sequence, which she also has the pod for 9S. 9S's pod has been cruising with her uh, this entire time. So then you get to see some pod fighting as well.
Pod fighting.
They do,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
They do like
Doesn't she
a joint like laser blast. Um,
like?
and they also
Doesn't she tell them to do that joint laser blast? But they're like, we'll have to cool down, or we'll have like a long time if we can't if we do that. And she's like, and they start coming for it. She's like, do it, and they keep coming. And this is where the machines start just committing mass suicide, right?
Yeah, on their way out is when they meet 9S who hacked into the robot. Then they meet the giant orb, which is the enemy. At that point, 9S is incapacitated, but he's hacked into a machine life form. So he's trying. Then that's what, like you mentioned before, he cuts the power to the giant orb. And that's when you get to see 9S do super cool anime sword slash. And she just cuts like butter. The 3-point landing past the machine, everything's cut up, um,
Yeah,
and then yeah, that you end up seeing like that's all the machines are right there, like hoarding, like marching towards her,
right,
um, and that's what the two machines do their joint combined blast, and the remaining of them all pile up into just a swirling like they look like the monster from like the no face from Sentochi Hiro, or Spirited Away. How it just kind of like like weird serpent worms its way through. Like it just gushes. They just swarm right past her into the lava pit. They jump down like and then they're like waving as they're saying bye as they're about to die because they're going to be like Eve, and you kind of expect them to, even though they only have like C clamp claws, you expect them to do a thumbs up from Terminator or something as they're going to the lava. Um, but yeah, they're all like super happy. They're like, yeah, we're dead now, but we're gonna be with God, so we're chill. Um, so yeah, it's kind of like the neural network, like the religion is like baked into them. So, just very awkwardly, just like we're just gonna go ahead and skip um, killing our enemy and go towards this ascension. And then, of course, you see Adam on the edge of a building as he's and he looks like he's about to commit suicide. He cries and he's about to step off the building, and then he just kind of floats away. You see his feet flutter, and
Mm,
it's just like, okay. But yeah, all the machines go haywire from that initial command, and that's when it goes back to the resistance camp.
right, right.
The whole entire resistance camp is just being swarmed according to their readings. Like thousands upon thousands of uh, machines just attacking the city.
Yeah, so so they're in trouble, and like you said, Lily is requesting support at the resistance camp. And that's kind of where the episode cuts off, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the alternate ending, 9S meets the maintenance androids, Devila and Popola, and starts drinking Desert Rose alcohol. Devila and Popola are then attacked by a horde of machines, but 9S is too drunk to help them, resulting in all three of their deaths. So yeah, that's so something that's maybe a tidbit to know is that Yoko Taro, the creator, is a self-professed heavy drinker. Pretty much every story he tells about being at work is he's basically saying that like he just drinks at work all the time, or he just drinks while he's writing. Apparently, he definitely appreciates a good brew pretty often.
So this ending was kind of unique in the fact that in the background, when 9S gets hammered, you actually see these two black-haired like twins.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
Wearing red dresses in the background. They don't bring it in reference, but you see them like spying on
they
them.
like peek up.
And yeah, they pop up, they pop right down, and it's just like, what the what? And so yeah, that's a little foreshadowing to like episode 12 at the
Yeah,
very end.
yeah,
So
that's really good. Like if you know about if you played the game, then there's a lot of little Easter eggs and fun stuff like that. You know that they tell you eventually, and I think they kind of had a little bit of that girl in one of the episodes in the previous episode, but yeah, it's always fun to see stuff like that. So yeah, just a little bit to make you scratch your noggin. So going into
yeah.
episode 11, we kind of are coming to a head in the confrontation. Um, so the resistance and Yorha forces are all over the region and are being attacked. Um, 2B reaches the resistance camp and links up with the survivors at the bunker.
Yeah, that whole attacking opening scene is pretty like it's pretty gnarly because you're seeing like the resistant member getting eaten alive
Mm,
essentially. Um and you're
100%.
like, wait a minute, these robots that have just a straight, just only eyes and that's it, and they also now have teeth. Um so it's kind of like what was that, Emil? The moon, the moon face.
Right.
They kind of it's just like, so two eyes and like, just no lips, just a skeleton like chomper teeth.
Ugh.
But yeah, they're literally ripping apart uh, the the resistance members who are supposed to be androids, but yet very much red comes out of them. So
Yeah,
transmission fluid.
it's
Um,
yeah, it's one of those things. I think it's because of the metaphor that Yoko Taro is trying to go for, but essentially, yeah, they you kind of see the full brunt of the war between them because before it's kind of been the resistance members. Whenever we're watching, the resistance members mostly winning and kind of just blowing up some basically tin can machines with explosives. It's like, oh, cool. But now we're kind of seeing the other side of it, the people that look like us, the ones that we can relate to more being like eaten alive and torn apart. And yeah, so it got kind of real in that scene. I remember seeing that and going like, dang, oh shit, here we go. And yeah, so that's a good point to bring up. But yeah, so kind of going on at the bunker, the commander petitions the use of Yorha's satellite laser cannons, but the Council of Humanity is like, nah, we're not going to do that. And says something about that doesn't align with their goals because they're trying to attain God through Process 11. So having played the game, I don't remember if that's really in it, but I don't think that it is. Attaining God, um, I played through the five main endings and a couple of the others, and I don't remember that being a thing, but it has been a while since I played it, so I could be wrong. But this kind of thing is one of those things that I think is part of the 1.1 a aspect of the anime. But yeah, so basically, long story short, Council of Humanity dude is like, no, I'm not, I'm not doing that. They're gonna just have to eat eat shit and die. Um, yeah, so it sucks.
That's par for the course. But then at least it's like, well, they don't get a laser, but 2B gets authorization for a long sword.
Yeah, yeah, she got long sword. So yeah, there's a lot of different weapons in the game, and I'm kind of glad that they decided to do a little bit of that. I hope they do like great swords and spears and not really brass knuckles. I feel like there's a real word like gauntlets for punching. I feel like there's a better word for it, but essentially they have those in the game too. And
So they do show her with the spear work in the previous episode when she's fighting the when she's in front of the cultists.
right, oh yeah,
Because at one point she loses her sword, but she grabs a spear and she does pretty good spear work for in that scene. So
okay. Yeah. So I hope that they continue to give us some of that because that stuff's cool. Um, so yeah, uh, so with the assistance from 2B and a newly arrived 9S, the Resistance is able to stop the Machine Army with the use of a wide area EMP. So this is cool because they kind of come to the battlefield or whatever, and they're like, okay, everybody put on your shields, and they have some sort of shield goes over them, and then they launch the EMP, and then just tons and tons of the machines die while they're left unharmed. Um, but then the machines are absorbed. Yeah, that's it. They're going around, right? And they're like, okay, we won. It's okay. But then the machines are absorbed into um, this giant berserk machine thing. Uh,
so yeah, they form into a giant, massive version of Eve.
right.
So they literally get combined. It's anything like any other anime. So it's
Yeah.
spoilers or slash not really spoiler, but like ending to Evangelion or actually very much reminiscent of Drakengard, the endings to Drakengard, like 1 and 3 final battles, where you have this giant thing in a city. Like it's kind of an homage to that, not quite to that the scale, but it is very reminiscent of that. So that was I noticed that right away. Um, so yeah, that was interesting. I also thought that the I think it was this episode had some pretty decent music to it as well. So it was just I was kind of caught off guard because like the music hadn't been really that noticeable to me, and a lot of it is just like, oh no, I think it was previous episode. I'm sorry, that was episode 10 that I had the music really like had some really key moments in it. But yeah, this one, like I said, it was neat, and I'm like, oh, that's what they're totally riffing off of is they're doing the connecting the dots to previous Yoko Taro projects is what I thought.
Yeah.
Granted, the game is connected to the others. So
Exactly. Yeah. 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 So I was a little bit kind of like, okay, we're gonna have a giant monster. It's anime. Yeah, it's par for the course. This is just what we do. But Adam kind of he like pokes out of it, right? He's like half torso, or his torso is revealed, right?
Well, they don't show that right away. Like the one of the dudes just as they're watching this Eve pop up, the dude with the rocket launcher is just like fire. And like everyone's like, what? And like it goes down and he's like, oh, it's pretty easy. Like it was
Oh
just
yeah.
it was pretty funny. It was just like of all the things to do, I'm like, yeah, you know what? If I had a rocket shoulder like a rocket launcher too, I'd probably fire it, you know. But that's when the uh instead of looking like Eve, the giant monster then transforms into a more of a kaiju esque form, and that's when Adam appears in the middle, pulling a Two Face look, literally like he's like half black, half white, um,
Right.
and so kind of I guess trying kind of symbolizing that he is merged or he is kind of like absorbed or one with like Eve maybe. Um, so he has this weird connect, split personality,
Exactly. Yeah. The it's kind of a final form sort of thing. It seems like. But yeah. So they're fighting this machine monster, and with the help of Pascal, 9S is able to hack into Adam's mind and lure him into a trap. Though at this point is also when he witnesses Adam's grief over Eve's death. Um, so I feel like I'm kind of missing something, but like, don't they?
There was the battle. There was the fight between the super machine life forms, the red faces.
Right,
Um, so yeah, during that time, there was these rumored machine life forms that were so strong that had taken out entire squads, or like like half the forces or whatever is I think what Lily says, and so that's when uh essentially 9S. No, 9S is doing going to do hacking, and 2B decides to confront this rare evolved like machine life form. It looks just like a normal machine life form, but with a red head and some red like chest piece. And then it turns out that it's there's actually three of them, so she ends up having this extended fight while 9S is trying to make his way to Adam, and that's when actually Pascal saves him mid fall, and you're like, oh yeah, here comes Pascal just to save the day, and apparently him and his crew were not affected by like they were not affected because they were already off the network. So when Adam had reconnected and turned all the machines from neutral to red, he's just they were like we were already away from them, so that's why we maintained our sanity. So
yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, so in the real world, the Resistance springs their trap, destroying Adam with a giant missile. Like I feel like they launch him into the air or something, and then shoot a missile at him.
yeah, well, yeah, what they did was after 9S incapacitates them, they end up they do a combo effect of things, because they end up doing a massive explosion with a rail gun or like a giant cannon, knocking him back. Then they collapse a bunch of buildings onto him to trap him in place long enough for the missile to then pick up underneath, carry him into the sky, and then it explodes.
Right.
So it's like a triple. It's a perfectly well thought out plan to the exact letter of where he'd fall. Like very precise, surgical level of skill.
Surgical level of
Uh,
precision. You're right. Um, okay, yeah. So he's destroyed with a giant missile, and but Adam survives. So I guess the monster is destroyed, but Adam himself survives. And
the monster, you see the monster then falling from the sky, like a meteor,
right,
and it is coming down, and so that's when, uh, like even Ninus is like that. We can't escape that impact. That's just it. Like we're kind of like almost giving up at that moment. Like there's no way to avoid this.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it kind of it goes to where they kind of get Adam kind of by himself again and not part of the monster, right?
As the monster's falling before it hits Earth, they use the satellite laser.
Oh
So
yeah,
so out of nowhere, they start seeing like light particles on the ground, and 9S, or I mean, sorry, 2B instantly recognizes what it is, tells everyone to take cover behind something, and anything, and then that's when the actual like orbital laser it hits, and that's pretty much where the episode ends right there.
Yeah, they do the orbital strike. And so that is so is that the commander? Yeah. Okay. So
So
we'll go.
they don't talk about that until the last episode, but yes.
Okay. All right.
Um,
So we'll just go ahead and do the alternate ending and then jump into that. So alternate ending, to be a 9S show affection to their pods who realize that they may be becoming self-aware and alive. I don't really remember this one. Um,
it's no, it's literally that. It's just like they start like
oh
praising
yeah.
and petting them and treating them all nice, and then that's it. It's like it doesn't say that necessarily. It's not a bad ending. It's not like, oh, because of this they like everything ended or people died. It's just that is they kind of made their pod self-aware or something like that. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
so it doesn't necessarily affect anything else. It is just an extra thing.
Right, right. So yeah. Um so going into episode 12, picking up right where we left off, like you said, the commander disobeys orders and uses the bunker satellite laser cannon to destroy Adam. That's what we find out, and and now we're kind of getting into like the impact crater part that I
Mhm.
remember. So the pods detect that Adam is still intact in some way, and so 2B and 9S head down to finish them off. So the crater is kind of it's kind of a center point to the game. Like when you play, you there's a big crater and a lot of stuff happens in it and around it, and you kind of have to traverse it. And it so it's kind of interesting that they're putting that here again. Anyway, so when they find
Yeah, they
Adam,
end up seeing.
go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was gonna. Okay, go on. Yeah, I was gonna say because when they start, one of the pods detects a life form that's still down there, and that's why they go ahead and jump in the crater, and then they start seeing like movement of parts, just like when the machine's all absorbed. So that's when they see, Adam chilling on top of like a peak, and it's like they realize, oh, he's trying to reform himself. He's trying to regenerate.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, so they see that he's mortally wounded, and they try to finish him off. And it's at that point that Adam accepts death, seeing it as a way to reunite with Eve. Um, uh,
Yeah, it's neat though because when he grabs 2B, like he then is able to implant like or he's able to share memories with her,
right.
and he shares all the memories of just him looking at Eve, and like Eve just being like himself like, hey, like I'll wait for you, when we come back we can play, just eating the apple, like those kind of flash images. So it just essentially Adam thinking fondly of his brother.
Right.
And then that kind of causes 2B to hesitate just for a split second, while 9S just comes up and like, let me help you, just stab him, and he just murders him like cold blooded, like he's kind of been like for. It's kind of the opposite, or in a lot of ways, because there's always been, it was kind of fighting with the whole concept through the entire game of um, 9S always being like, well, we should kill these, or like, should we be cold to them? Should we not be cold to them? It's always been a mixed message. It's like you're slowly seeing them change. But granted, after being tortured and going through all that, like I would expect them to want to kill it in cold blood,
Yeah.
opposed to like that, say, the circus family early in the episode, like 4 or something like that. Um, so yeah, that's straight up just stabs him right in the head. And but they did it together, so it was a joint effort.
It was, it was a, yeah, it was a good club
He
activity.
wanted to share in the XP drop. That's why. It's like if she killed it, she would just get the XP. He's like, let's do this together.
With Adam dead, the machines in the area shut down, and that ends their onslaught. But 9S is infected with a logic virus. due to hacking Adam, and 2B is forced to mercy kill him and breaks down over his death. So this is sort of a important part. So whenever 2B has to kill 9S, she strangles him for some reason. I guess because her sword is broken. I can't remember. Um,
No, her sword is totally available. It's just she straight up personally looks him in the eyes and just chokes him out and breaks his neck.
but
You hear an audible snap.
you do hear an audible snap. But so this is something that's important. So I guess the way that she does it, she gonna get a little bit adult here, but she mounts him as he's laying on the ground, and it's sort of like it's it looks like the first time you see it in the game, you're like, that is sort of a sexual that is sort of a sexual position that they have going there, and it is intentional because it's kind of, how could it not be? But it goes into kind of Yoko Taro's theme about humanity basically just being a cycle of sex and death. And so you have that together in that one scene, which is why it's an important scene. But you have that kind of there together. And it's also why, I guess, I don't know, it's like why she cries, because she does have some sort of emotional feelings. We don't know the extent, but she does care about 9S in some way. And then, like, once again, like, they're going to go through all this together and accomplish so much, but he won't be able to remember because
Well, it's not the him. That's not the him. Yeah, because he just says like, "Oh, I'll just reboot and reload myself," and she's like, "It's not the you now."
yeah,
But yeah, it's meant the whole reason for choking out instead of just like beheading him is because it's an intimate act, and that's why she literally you don't strangle someone, like without it being an act of some sort of passion.
yeah,
And
it's
like I
not
said,
quick.
looking him straight in the face. It's now, if she wanted to do quick and easy and painless, she would just one clean cut. But she lets him feel that beforehand. Uh,
Yeah,
that he logically is like, well, we'll just reload my previous self, but she's had to see him die, you know, a
countless
number of
times.
times.
Yeah,
And then that's how like the opening scene is her like carrying his body at one point, like in the very first episode or something like that. They show her like just and so yeah, that's it is an emotional scene, but also if she didn't get close enough to mount him, he wouldn't have been able to, with the logic virus, cut her face, which then removes the veil over her eyes, and then that way they can look eye to eye. Because earlier, he is also injured or cut, and therefore you could see his eyes like the entire time. But now they have no mask, nothing like that, and you get to see the entirety of their face.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, and so, but we have a little bit of a twist here because 9S manages to save himself by transferring um, his consciousness into a nearby machine. Um, so that was kind of weird. I think that might happen in the game, but it's a little bit of a different thing. Anyway, so
Yeah, because what you see is you start seeing like one of the machine life forms just disembodied head eyes start blinking green, and she's about to murder that, and then all of a sudden a bunch more happen,
yeah, he's
and
like
it's just
Chotomate,
like
Chotomate.
it's like the collective consciousness of all of them just like syncing up.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, so and then yeah, it turns out then one an intact machine life form. That's when Nines pops in and she's like, "Oh, I'm a thing I gotta kill," and he's like, Wait, it's me. I'm okay." Um, and that's essentially he's just gathered bits of data from like a bunch of them to form a solid unit.
right,
So
right. So that so we kind of have a little bit of a happy ending at that point, but it's only about halfway through the episode. So we have ending credits, right? It's very nice, long, pretty song. Um,
It
And
shows that it's the credits for the entirety of the series actually, or like they have episodes for early for like all of the titles, and so it gives like directors for each one, I believe, and stuff like that. So it's a longer bit of credits roll, and then yeah, like you mentioned, right afterwards is the what do you call it, the commercial bumper where it shows like just says near. And like and then you expect it to go to commercial when it comes back, it shows it again. So that's kind of what they do is they're like, yeah, we're back from commercials and now here's the other story.
there's some more. Yeah. So basically, we're in a post-credits scene now for like 10 minutes or so. And during this time, or during his time getting repaired at the bunker, 9S connects with the bunker's server. Um, and
Yeah, this is all 2 hours before the fight with, Adam.
right,
So so after they rescue 9S, from being tortured, and then they send him up to the bunker. This is, like, that in-between time, because one thing I don't think we mentioned is the EMP that was dropped, when the machine started swarming the Resistance members, that EMP was delivered, I believe it was by 9S, because 9S comes down in one of those, fighter suits, like
right,
like the little jetpack they wore in episode one. So he drops that down, and that's how he shows up. Um, but yeah, so it's like between, it's like this is his adventure time during at the bunker.
right. And so he tries to connect with the server, but sensing an anomaly, 9S prevents himself and 2B's data from syncing with the bunker itself. And as he investigates, he accidentally triggers the server's defense system, and he encounters twin girls with red dresses. So he's chased around by two mouse cursors or three mouse cursors, I forget.
Three. But what I found was neat, and I actually do like this fact is, um, because I thought about it earlier in episode 9 when he's held hostage, and then he's sent. They make him go through a full diagnostics. So they make him check every file to make sure he's not corrupted, because that's exactly what I was thinking. It's just like, well, he has to be infected, right? Turns out, he didn't. Obviously, since we made it this far, he got infected at the final battle when he hacked into uh, Giga Beast, Adam, but he actually didn't get infected when he was being tortured. So that's when they make him go through, and that's when they're going to sync him to the system, and that's when he sees it's just a glitch in the matrix. Literally, it's like fuzzy lines, and he's like, "Wait, that doesn't seem right. Let's go to the server," and that's when he finds they're like, "There's a lot of files here. Let's go with the ones with the fewest views," and
Mm,
so that's where they find it, and that's yeah. He gets access denied, and yeah, you're right. The defenses look like three mouse cursors that are like shooting them at him.
yeah,
So
yeah, those are a big part of the game. Every time you hack, you turn into one of those things. Um,
okay,
so as he investigates, yeah, I read that part. Yeah, so but he encounters twin girls wearing red dresses. Um, and this is sort of we saw them with the puppet thing earlier. They pop up for just a second, but they claim that they are observing the androids and help 9S discover um, the truth about Project Yorha. Uh, he learns, so with some finality, I guess, that humanity has been long extinct and that Project Yorha was created to raise android morale by fooling them into believing humans are still on the moon. And
yeah.
that's
So what happened? Yeah, this was part was pretty neat, and it's something that I didn't catch right away. But when he first, when the twin girls like show him the final file, as it were, he hears his voice coming from a TV, and it was really funny because I'm like, these girls look like Yuki from Persona 4. Um, it's like black hair, red dress, red hairband. I'm like, this is totally her. And then all of a sudden they drop him into this water, and then there's a TV there, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is totally Persona. Okay, he's just going to go through the TV, right? But he hears 9S hears his own voice coming from it, and they kind of giving him the information. And then you're seeing a bunch of windows with text files on them, explaining this entirety of the project and how the because humanity was wiped out, they had to keep the morale up, so they pretended like there's people on the moon, and how the moon base is actually just some maintenance staff pretty much pretending to be uh, the council, or yeah, the Council of Humanity, essentially, and which then makes perfect sense why uh, you know they never give support of anything whenever they're asked, because it's literally just a bunch, very, there's no one there, and most of the shuttles that are launching are majority empty. Like there's like a little water, a little supplies, but most of the containers are just empty,
Yeah,
so it's just made to look busy. And so that was, that's like the big plot twist.
exactly. Um, so 9S wakes up and responds to 2B's request for backup as he is secretly observed by the girl in the red dress. And I think that's where it leaves. That's where it leaves off, pretty much. Um,
Yeah, they zoom in on his terminal in his office or in his bedroom, and
yeah,
it shows one of her face, and then she gives the creepy smile, much like the much like Adam did when he was being hacked in the Giga monster form. As he got stabbed, right
right.
before he gets stabbed, he makes a smile similar, and that's what originally affected 9S. But because at least the implication that I got is because 9S heard his own voice reading back the text file to him when he first saw the off limits file. He's had to have been there before,
Mm,
like, or to the point where, and therefore have been subsequently wiped. And because he was wiped, he doesn't remember that, but he has like his save data there. Um, so that's why I'm assuming that's why he heard himself. But yeah, it's like I have no idea. There's no other real information given, because I haven't played the game, about the girls in red, other than that they're like some sort of watchers, and they don't explain much else about them. And yeah, like when this brings it to the end, and then you end up seeing a preview, or like they do a quick synopsis and a preview.
yeah, I was going to
And
get to this. Yeah. Nope. You can go ahead.
oh yeah, so I wasn't sure if we were going to say anything else, but this is yeah, they just pretty much the last bit before the preview is to be just kind of having a few memories of like the fight, like uh season one adventures, essentially. She sees the community, Pascal's community. She sees, fighting with Adam. She sees and then she sees her like killing him, and then kind of like she wakes up from her dream or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, then they jump to a future montage, and it has quite a few different things, like you end up seeing the commander giving a speech. You end up seeing 9S and 2B surrounded by what looks like Yoroha units that are suited up for their flight suits, because you see them with like distinct swords, but you can't make out any facial features, and they don't look like, but they're all uh, kind of like combat suits. But this is all in a black and white, or like a sepia like motif. You see like Pascal. It was Pascal like opening a shipping container of some sort with robots in them. You see the twins from the resistance camp also possibly in that said container. They're just showing a bunch of montage clips of potential rest of the game. Well, the rest of the game, but potentially season two if we get it. So it'll be interesting. High hopes. The fact, it's a gutsy move, considering the fact that they went on hiatus for so long, but they had enough clout to finish it off, right?
Yeah.
So good on them.
Yeah.
And then they went ahead and posted, "Hey, here's a preview of things to come." Uh, so so they might be able to pull it off. I'm not sure how this is selling. I'm not even sure if it's actually fully on sale yet. I assume it would be at this point, but over in Japan. But that determines a lot of season two stuff, is how well season one sells.
Yeah. I kind of wonder how well, like, merch and figures and stuff sell. And there's also a near mobile game, and I think that it's doing. I don't think it's doing gangbusters, but I think it's doing okay. So they might have a lot of it invested in other aspects of Near, to where they were like, yeah, we have to get this out because we have to keep, because it's a franchise and we're just going to keep making more of it. So we're not going to quit on the anime just because it was a hiccup. Um, Yeah, so there's more coming. Hopefully, we'll fingers crossed. We'll see what ends up actually happening. But something that I was thinking about as we were doing this podcast is, you know, we just totally lost track of A2. She just dipped,
Um,
and we haven't seen. I don't
so
think. Her,
they show her in the final scene uh when 9S is regaining herself,
yeah,
like or himself, when all the machine life forms eyes are blinking green, you actually see her in a uh like in a building, like half the building wall knocked down, and you see just a bunch of the heads all around her. But that's literally all you see. So I mean, granted, it hasn't been very long since fighting the or since she assassinated the little king baby machine life form.
yeah,
And then they do show scenes in the preview section where it looks like it seems to be her. They also show something that could be her, but with shorter hair.
right,
So it was kind of hard to make out in the quick montage. So yeah, but that was something they did show just at the very end, was like she is still alive, and she's obviously nearby enough to be affected when 9S tried to sync up with all the other machines.
right.
So
Yeah. So
she'll probably just fighting when the mass horde happened. But yeah, they don't explain anything else that.
I guess the point is that her story's not finished, um, and probably see more of her in the next season, I would imagine. Um, but yeah, so
So one of the things I found that was interesting though is in the top secret files that was mentioned, um, when they talk about the humanity humanity being doomed, essentially, is they said it's following the collapse of Project Gestalt around, and then it says year uh, 3400 CE. The remaining androids search for a way to revive humanity, but were able to discover the answers, and then humanity goes extinct at 4200. So it's essentially it's 800 years later. That's when humanity goes extinct. But Project Gestalt being the prior Nier game. So
yes,
I just I just thought that was a reference that they dropped in there too.
yeah, they definitely are dropping in a lot of references to Near, the original Near. Um, and yeah, so we can kind of talk about some stuff with what we think might happen in the next season. On that point of Gestalt, um, I
Yeah,
think
one question for you then is, since you've actually finished the game, um, about about what percentage would you say that this uh like it ends here, but what percentage of through the main game is it? Is it halfway, or do you think they'll be able to get technic
that
like
this
do
is
two more seasons?
this is probably a quarter or a third of the way through the game.
Okay.
Through the
So
like,
in theory, they'd be able to get at least, like two more seasons reliably out of it.
yeah, there's up to this point, and then the end, depending on where, I think the end of season 2 will be a big, I'm not gonna say what it is, but will be a big kerfuffle, and changes, and then season 3 will be uh will be I think that'll be where they will head toward the end. They might go with a fourth. It's been a while. There might be enough for a fourth, but if I think they'll only have, if there's going to be 4 seasons, then that means that season 2 will not be as big a kerfuffle as I thought. But they're going to save that giant kind of thing for season 3, I think. But what I was going to say is that this this allusion to Project Gestalt and some other stuff that we've seen, that 9S has seen, being from Nier, I think they're going to incorporate Nier, the original Nier, and Brother Nier, and Kaine and Emil, into the series in some way, shape, or form. Probably through like cloning or revitalizing or time, some sort of a time machine thing. but they've alluded to them so much, and they're a popular part of the Nier lore that I definitely think that they're going to be involved, at least maybe not in season two, but at some point before the series finishes, if it gets to finish itself.
I mean, you'd be able to just simply have, a data terminal or some sort of memory thing, and then like relive those because they've shown memories in the past already. They
Yeah,
showed like the wedding from before and stuff like that, so they can easily just like, hey, we're gonna rewind time, let you see some key, like we can spend a whole episode or a couple on different people's backgrounds, essentially.
yeah, or even
I can see that being played off.
or just being like, we need answers from people who lived back then. Let's put our data brain. Oh, and they go inside a computer and they interact with them. Yeah, that's definitely something that could totally happen. But I definitely think that they're going to bring them more to the forefront as time goes on, and also Devila and Popola are going to be more important. If you played the game, you'd know that, but they're going to be more important as time goes on. So yeah, that's kind of probably the long and short of what I think is going to happen. Is there anything that you think, or are you just kind of thinking you don't know what's going to happen next?
The only I do know one big thing, but that's because it got spoiled for me like
Yeah,
years ago.
don't
Like
say it.
when Nier first came out, it was Nier Automata. Uh, I was game of the year discussions, and one person was very much mm, trying to underplay, like they're like Nier was not that great of a game, blah blah. They're very much upset about
Certain
2B's
aspect.
butt and
No.
a lot of butt, and therefore they couldn't work their way past it, and they were kind of dissing the game, while someone else who really liked the game straight up, like, because the person dissing the game was like, well, it's very predictable and it's very this and that, and then as a sharp retort, this other person who loved the game went, wait, you expected blank? And I'm like, well, now that I heard that, I'm like, that is, I can never unhear that.
Yeah.
And apparently that blank happens early enough in the story, and the most of the story is post blank, and I'm like, okay, well, yeah. So I at least I
I
had a feeling.
I wouldn't say that most of the story is post blank, but it's a significant. I would say maybe like 25 or 30% of the game is after that.
So post kerfuffle is what I'm assuming you're talking about.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. So I that much I do know about this game. I it's one of those things that's like, yeah, it stinks that I had that part spoiled for me, but I'm curious about it. Actually, um, well, like I said, we can now hold Nick to task, and if they don't make 3 seasons, uh, we can, find out where he lives and make him pay with a pound of flesh,
I don't like where this is
per
going.
viewer.
No. So like 6 max. That's still a lot when you think about it.
Nick's guaranteeing us 24 more episodes, for the rest of the series. Yep. No, it's granted, it's going to get preferably at least get one more season. Uh, this season was, or the series was enjoyable. I'm probably going to actually end up playing the game, uh, mostly also because there was been Nier is doing a concert tour all over, and so we picked up tickets for it, and we're going to, before the concert happens, I got some time. I would like to be able to play through the game so I can really get connected to the music, so I can enjoy the concert that much more.
Yeah, I think that's a good
Um,
idea.
like I said, it was like episode 9 that, or 10, that I happened to actually start noticing some decent music into it, and so I know early on, there were some, notes and stuff here and there that, people really seem to like or remember,
So
but unfortunately, I have zero connection to that. So
I don't want to ruin your plan because it is a good plan, but it some of the music that they are playing is not from Automata. It is from the first Nier, and it is generally, I would say, a consensus that the first Nier's music is better. Um, I think that they're pretty close, but I will say that I do think the first Nier's music, there's a bigger emphasis on melody, and melody is a bit more memorable when you really hit that just right. So the good news is that you don't have to play through all of Nier to get all that. You would only need to play through, like, I don't know, maybe the first 10 hours to get a, I know it's not like nothing, but they're the first 5 or 10 hours to get a good portion of that music. So just want to give you a heads up so you don't get disappointed when you play all the way through Nier Automata and you're like, where the fuck is the music that I wanted to listen to?
Well, I've heard the music before.
Okay.
A friend of mine was pretty big into it, and so I just ended up, like there was like 4 CDs worth of music or something like that for Nier Automata, and so that was, and I know their vinyl is like massive, so they have some really good songs in there, but at the same time, it's just um the merchant music wasn't in there, and that you remember really well. Um,
Yeah.
and that was completely. I'm like, I was waiting for that whole scene to come in, and it never did in this. So obviously, there's I know of just a little bit here and there of later story, but not a whole lot. I've pretty much kept myself mostly in the dark, and like I said, I probably this has got me more interested enough, and plus, not being guaranteed to get all 3 seasons, like Nick said, I should probably finish the story myself.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. I think you've gotten a good taste now, and you can go play the game. I would definitely encourage that. But yeah, so I think that's pretty much going to do it for us here. It was it took a long time, but we got there. Oh, I guess we can talk about our general perception of the show. So, what did you think of the show through this season?
I kind of stated it earlier, but like it was, like as a whole, it was pretty solid. Um, I wasn't expecting it to move mountains, but it had it provided enough entertainment. It wasn't. I guess it didn't lead with enough mystery or anything like that. Like what mystery there was, I remember I was off the mark, to some extent, but I felt that I was in the right ballpark for some
Yeah,
of it.
yeah, you
And
were.
I mean, but then again, it doesn't take so long as you know a couple story beats, like you know there was something wrong with the Council of Humanity
Yeah,
and stuff like that. So it wasn't too far fetched to think that. And I'm it's once again it got me entertained and wanting to know the rest of the story. So the fact that it does that and keeps me still engaged to that point, I would say is a success. Um, Now, if you're not into the big question is, would I recommend it? And I would say yes and no. I would recommend it to those who are remotely into certain themes. But as a whole, I don't actually think I can recommend it just to a casual anime watcher because there's not enough into it that um, there's not enough hook. Like it's
yeah,
not a big enough mystery. It's not a big enough foe. Adam and Eve don't really possess like like any real gravitas to them. Like they don't you don't they're not a big threat, not until the very end. And it's only Adam, and it's only by chance, and it's only and like it things like Eve doesn't really play out. So it was, it was more of a curiosity with the Council of Humanity, and that was like the big question. You didn't get to see enough evolution, I guess, of um 2B and 9S. So that's why, because I have friends like you who are really into it, and uh I think that by just being around you makes it more exciting for me and more enjoyable. But without someone to necessarily talk to, and if you're just coming this like straight off the streets, I'd be like, yeah, maybe watch this if you're not sure if you're committed to the game,
hmm
and if you after a few episodes, if you're not interested in it, then maybe don't ever get into the game. Um,
yeah,
but for me, I got interested enough to actually want to play the game after this. But also at the same time, it's a lot of time to put into it. Feels longer for us because of the delay,
yeah,
multiple delays. But yeah, so that's why it was just. I don't necessarily. I couldn't necessarily say this is like. I mean, it's a solid like 6. It's
Mhm.
just, but at the, it's good enough. If you're gonna be like, hey, I want to watch it, I'm not gonna discourage you. I'm like, go ahead, watch it. It's a solid watch. But I'm also not at the same time gonna be like, hey, buddy, you sit down, take some time out of your life, and dedicate yourself to this.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Now, and like I said, unless if you have a lot of things that you really like, if you like, artificial intelligence, questioning humanity, those kind of deep thoughts, then even still, it's a big ask to spend that much time.
There is definitely a lot that is lost in translation. The story is built to be a game, obviously first, and they kind of are trapped in having to replay that for the fans, and because it already worked once. I kind of think that a better way to do this, maybe not a more lucrative way, but a better way to do this would have been to write a new story in that universe, um, something that it lends itself more to the rising action of an anime, um, and the way that anime kind of needs to work. So yeah, I'm kind of there with you. I think six, that makes sense as a score for someone that has not played it. But unfortunately, I've played it and I like it a lot. So I would give it probably a 7 or so. But I know that is not a that is not an unbiased score. And yeah, I'm with you. I wouldn't recommend this to anybody that is not looking for something a little bit different and is looking to take a little bit of a chance. Um, and somebody that might actually enjoy the game, this would be a kind of a good primer for that if they didn't want to spend, you know, 25 hours figuring out that they didn't actually like the game. So, yeah, I'm there with you, and I just hope that the second season they can flesh out more of what their vision is. They can actually do more of Yoko Taro's vision, but that remains to be seen.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, thanks for bringing me along this journey. It was entertaining, and like I said, I do want to see the story to its completion. So that'll be maybe something I'll chip away at in the near future.
Near future. All right, guys. Thanks for sticking with us, and we will see you next time.
All right, take it easy, guys.